It's currently 7:04 and I'm calling the meeting to order. We have myself, Commissioner Rogers, Commissioner Braun here. We're hoping Commissioner Morrell joins us any minute. First, I'd like to make a motion to hold the board meeting through Zoom in light of the governor's COVID-19 disaster proclamation. I've decided that it's not feasible for one or more of us to gather in person, and we will motion is to hold the meeting through Zoom. Is there a second?
Rogers seconds.
Julie, could we roll call that, please?
Yep. Braun?
Yes.
Morrell still absent. Rogers
Yes.
and Mitchell.
Yes. Okay. Motion passes. We're going to move on to citizen comments. Are there any citizens who'd like to make a comment that are with us this evening? Natalie, if you had any folks reach out to you? Okay.
No.
So we're going to move on to approval of the June 9th, 2022 minutes. Is there a motion regarding the minutes?
Rogers moves approval of the June 9th, 2022 minutes for the Ridgeville Park District Board of Commissioners.
Mitchell seconds. Any discussion? Julie, could we go ahead and roll call that?
Braun?
Yes.
Rogers?
Yes.
Mitchell?
Yes. Next on our agenda, point 5 is appoint a new commissioner. Over the last couple months, we've been going through a process of appointing a new commissioner. We had 2 rounds of interviews, and it's my understanding the board has come to a consensus. Commissioner Rogers or Braun, would you care to make a motion on that?
Rogers moves that for the vacancy left by the resignation of Martha Gaines, that we appoint Diana Anton to complete her term, which will expire in the next round of general elections for the municipality.
I'll second it. Braun?
Okay. Any discussion? Julie, could we roll call vote?
Braun?
Yes.
Rogers?
Yes.
Mitchell?
Yes. Right. So the motion passes. Diana, thank you for all of your work and your willingness to join our board. Can I ask Natalie to move forward with swearing you in?
All right. Diana, I'm going to swear you in. I just need you to raise your hand and repeat after me.
Okay.
I, Diana Anton,
I, Diana Anton,
having been elected to the office of Commissioner
having been elected to the office of Commissioner
in the Ridgeville Park District of Evanston,
in the Ridgeville Park District of Evanston,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America
that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and will abide by the general ordinance of Ridgeville Park District,
and will abide by the general ordinance of the Ridgeville Park District,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
of the office of Park Commissioner
of the office of Park Commissioner
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
All right.
Okay.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And I know I texted you about this today, but I've got all of the papers for you to sign
Okay.
when you stop by tomorrow.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Diane.
Thank you, everybody.
Congrats.
Yay.
Yeah, I'm very pleased to be a part of this group. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Diana. We're gonna jump right in. You are officially a board member, and we will call you to vote. If you have any questions or discussion, feel free to jump in. I see Commissioner Morrell has joined us. And Mick, I saw you caught just the end of that. We officially have a new commissioner. 1 second to get back to my agenda. We are at item number 5. At this point, I would like to move to suspend the rules and move up the agenda what's marked as 9A, old business for action, discuss contracting Aisha Robinson as equity consultant. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Julie, could we roll call that? I can't hear you, Julie.
About that, Anton,
Yes.
Ron,
Yes.
Morel,
Yes.
Rogers,
Yes.
Yes. Okay, thank you. At our last meeting, the board directed myself and Mr. Rosinski to meet with Ms. Robinson and go over the contracting agreement. We had that meeting. We were scheduled to meet in person. I had COVID and we did it online. We went over the contract, made some small adjustments to address some concerns of Ms. Robinson. You'll see the updated contract starting on page 33 of the packet. Followed by that is the markup that was done by Mr. Valenti to properly get those terms laid out. So my suggestion is that we approve this consulting contract tonight and start working with Ms. Robinson. Is there any, we'll start with the commissioners. Are there any questions or comments? And then after that, Aisha, we'll see if you have anything to add. So commissioners, does anybody have any questions or comments regarding the consulting agreement?
Could someone just kind of like briefly, not in great detail, but kind of run through what the changes were and kind of why they were made? I mean, just so we kind of understand.
Sure, I'm happy to do that. I'll direct your attention to the markup version of the consulting agreement starting on page 38. One was a clarification of compensation, clarifying our process that the consultant will submit their invoice on the first calendar Monday of any month, submitted to the Park District Board of Commissioners for approval. The board will vote on that at the board meeting, and the payment will be promptly made to consultant. Moving on next to paragraph 4 on page 39. We expect the budget to be $10,000 and clarified our fiscal year, July 1st, 2020 through June 30th, 2023.
So is there supposed to be a $10,000 in after that dollar sign?
There is, and
Because I'm not seeing it on mine, so I just want to make sure.
sure it is on the final version.
Okay, because that was going to be one of my questions when we got to
Okay.
it.
So if you look on page 34, that $10,000 is included.
Okay,
Okay, so I'm back to the marked up version. Page 38, 39, regarding authorization of use of likeness. Ms. Robinson asked if we could add the language that we would notify her of any use of her likeness. That seems certainly reasonable. Moving on to page 41, paragraph 10G. Any modification of the agreement will be done in writing. Protects both parties. That was inserted, which changed some of the numbering, you'll see. And that's it. So I'll kind of just clarification, small points.
My main question was because I had a blank in on the dollar amount there. So that was the only thing that I was kind of curious about.
Got it. Any other questions or comments from the commissioners? Aisha, do you have anything to add?
And specifically, I'm just looking to, but nothing to add specifically about the contract.
I'm having a hard time hearing your audio, Aisha.
You might try turning off the video.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, I had said I was looking forward to getting started with the work. I basically said I didn't have anything specific about the contract. Thank you.
Great. And then if we move forward with this tonight, will you be able to sign in the near future?
Yes.
Great. Back to the commissioners. Any other questions or comments? Then I'm looking for a motion directing me as president to sign the consulting agreement on behalf of the Park District.
Rogers, I move that we authorize the president of the board to enter into the contract that was presented to us this evening with Aisha Bell Robinson to serve as our equity consultant for the term outlined in that contract.
I'll second it.
Julie, can we roll call the vote, please?
Anton,
Yes.
Ron,
Yes.
Morel,
Yes.
Rogers,
Yes.
and Mitchell.
Yes. The motion carries. Thank you all for your work on this. Thank you to the Ready Committee for all of your work on this, and Ms. Robinson. So we'll get started. Moving on, we're going to go back to the agenda and the approval of the bills. Brian, do you want to walk us through the bills this month?
Sure. I'll go through the unusuals as usual, Diane. I usually don't go through the utilities. Those are monthly bills. So at any rate, from the July 14th, 2022 bills, we'll start with Rebecca Bladen is a refund from one of our programs. Paul Brunger, same thing, refund. As we move down, Evanston Lumber was lumber for our gardens, and the Boy Scouts to build compost bins, which should be ready fairly shortly, part of an Eagle Scout project. Genesis is a whole $3.07 for some extra copies. We went over the limit on our machine. As we go further down, Language and Action is a partner class. Maha Rios is a July concert. Claire Mallory is a refund. Manny's Landscaping is the wood chips that you see in all the park playgrounds throughout the park district. He purchased them and had his crew put the wood chips in place. Gerald McClendon will be a concert in July or August. Mick Archer, same thing, concert in July or August. Parker and Sons Carpet Cleaning is parts of two invoices. One was carpet cleaning and the other was carpet repair as we / small replacement as we ripped up the carpet and found the tile that has to be removed. So we put a small piece of carpet back down. And those are the two bills for that. Karen Radin is a refund. Ariel Redmond, she's a counselor, and that is a reimbursement for kickballs. Kimberly Reyes is a refund. Ruben Sierra, who used to be our maintenance foreman, that's a refund for his gardens, which we converted into 4 gardens. He had 2 half gardens, now they're 4 gardens. Staples Office Supplies, Two Brothers Heating and Cooling, Cayman East Air Conditioner Condenser Repair. That's it.
And any questions or comments from commissioners? Is there a motion?
Make a
Rogers.
motion.
I'm sorry, did I step on somebody? Rogers moves approval of the bills for July 14th, 2022 in the amount of $27,219.67.
Or a second?
Second it.
I might jump in and say, I heard you say $219.
I'm sorry, did
The
I?
report is $291.
I correct that then to $291 if I switch those numbers around.
And Diana seconded. Any further discussion? Julie, could we call the vote, please?
Yes. Okay, I'm going to be the first one. Okay. I
Yep,
can't.
Sorry, it's always alphabetical, so you're always going to be first.
Okay.
Braun,
Yes.
Morel,
Yes.
Rogers,
Yes.
and Mitchell.
Yes. All right, motion carries. Moving on to approval of the petty cash expenditures. Brian, could you walk us through those?
Sure. Air Delights was phone soap for the dispensers in our washrooms. Amazon is various camp supplies for session 2. Apple, iPad memory, Classic Car Wash. I got the F-150 wash for the Juneteenth parade. Dropbox is digital file sharing and storage. Dunkin' / Baskin Robbins is 4th of July and Juneteenth sweets for the staff and the volunteers who work those events. Evanston Present and Future Juneteenth sponsorship, which we talked about last month. Evanston Organics, wood chips for the gardens and a few other areas. Fresh Prints of Evanston t-shirts. We needed 10 more for session 2. GoDaddy Microsoft renewal. Terrence Hunter Magic Show, which by all accounts was outstanding for the campers. MailChimp emails over 2,000. Morelia Supermarket had to go buy some bread, P&J for a few kids who forgot their lunch. Rick Peterson Plumbing rotted the sewer at 908 Seward. He did a great job. We were under duress because we were backing up and we had 30 some odd kids in camp. Sam's Club summer camp snacks over the last 5 weeks. Sticker Mule giveaways at special events. Walgreens paper products. That's it.
Hey, Brian.
Yep.
The rotting, I'm assuming it's clay pipes just like everywhere else. So you're getting the roots in there?
Yes.
How often are you getting those rotted out every year?
The last time we got this one rotted was approximately 3 years ago. We don't rot it every year.
Okay.
We had Cayman rotted about 4 or 5 months ago.
Okay. Yeah, that's not bad. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions or comments? Is there a motion regarding the petty cash?
Rogers moves approval of petty cash dated July 15th, 2022, which is a day in the future, in the amount of $3,723.37.
Or a second?
I'll second it.
Debbie, Julie, could we call the vote, please?
Anton,
Yes.
Ron,
Yes.
Morel,
Yes.
Rogers,
Yes.
and Mitchell.
Yes. All right, motion carries. Moving on to the monthly reports. Back to you, Mr. Rosinski.
Sure, thank you. It's been a very, very busy last 5 weeks with camps, special events, and classes all beginning. Camps are going well with both directors, V. Witter, who has the 5 to 7 year olds, and Josh Kovaliers has the 8 to 12-year-olds. Both are doing a fine job. Special events such as Concert on the Ridge, pop-up art are also in full swing. T-ball, youth soccer are fighting the weather, but are more than halfway through. And Natalie has also scheduled a small number of classes this summer that she will describe for you a little bit later. Jose Montoya, our full-time maintenance hire, has resigned and accepted a job closer to home. His last day was July 5th. He gave us plenty notice. In the meantime, we posted, interviewed, and hired his replacement. His replacement's name is Luis Rodriguez. He is an Evanston resident and high school graduate with maintenance experience. I contacted board president Matt Mitchell and he approved the hire. Luis started on July 6th. His wage is within budget. We also had our play circuits filled with accessible wood chips in their fall zones. You just paid that bill. They all look great. Manny's Landscaper did it within budget at $8,000. Reba Park circuit installation is complete and getting plenty of use and plenty of nice compliments. Natalie Sully, several counselors, and I worked the 4th of July races at Cayman East Park. We had a nice crowd of about 150 to 200 people. President Mitchell was there and got whooped in the 60-yard dash. I just thought I'd throw that in there. The youngsters had a great time. Many thanks to the 4th of July Association for their help, supplies, and promotion. On this agenda, you'll see we must pass the tentative budget. A copy of that budget is in your packet. I also added budget highlight page for your convenience. Appointing equity consultant and new commissioner is also on the agenda. We've already got that done, along with the annual reviews of Jung Howard and Natalie Sully. That's it.
Just a clarification, I did win 3rd in the 60-yard adult dash, 60-yard dash. I had no place on the podium, but just want to clarify that. Any other comments or questions? Yes, Debbie.
I'll have to see proof of that.
Oh, I got it. I got the ribbon. Could have worn it. I wore it all day.
You took it from your kid.
They had a good outing too.
I was there too, but I was unable to race because my daughter was crying the whole time I was there. However, I would like to say that, where's my camera? The new playground was approved. My kids have been over there nonstop over on Reba. They love it. So thanks to Brian and everybody for getting that in. I know we were waiting for that for a while, but there's been a lot of kids over there. I think it's a great little playground. So my kids love it. It's approved by the Morel family.
All right. Anything else? Thank you, Brian. We'll move on to Mr. Gibbs, the treasurer's report.
Hello, everybody. I think my report's pretty short this month. You got the usual complement of reports, but I would caution you that the figures at this stage are very preliminary because it's our fiscal year end. There's going to be significant revisions as we process the July bills and the August bills, because there will be payments we make in those 2 months that get dated back to June because they're for June services. We also have accruals for payroll. Our first payroll in July will be mostly June work dates, so that gets accrued back. And some of the other significant transactions of the year will cause adjustments. So more revisions to come at the August board meeting. The numbers will be a lot more accurate and subject to some kind of minor revisions by the September board meeting, but at the September board meeting, the figures will be final. And that's what will be turned over to the auditors for their review and creation of our certified annual financial reports. As of the writing of the report, we still have not been asked to certify the tax extension and rate calculations for the levy ordinance passed last December for property tax year 2022. Typically, we would do this in early June so that the Cook County Treasurer issues tax bills by July, due to be paid in August. We have no official word or any official communication on when that information will be ready for certification. Doing some searching around online, I did find that within the last week, Tony Breckwinkle indicated what we've heard previously, and that is the expectation is that the bills will be available probably by December 1st for payment by the end of the month, so that people get the tax benefits of paying their property taxes in this calendar year. The other specific thing I heard was that she used the phrase that they're going to be 4 months late, giving us some indication of a number of months late. So looking eagerly for official word. If anybody hears anything that would be helpful to understand that, great. Pass it along, please. Our operating balances in our Chase relationship, we're starting to get uncomfortably low. So I was worried about us inadvertently overdrawing the account or falling into territory where we had to pay service charges. So I transferred $50,000 from our Illinois Funds investment account back into the Chase relationship to boost the balances up. I'm probably going to have to do another transfer from one of the investment relationships in July to pay this month's bills. Bottom line is we're going to be living off our reserves for the next several months. On the various reports and the key indicators, I did not attempt to put any narrative down for that. I'll open it up to any questions if anybody has them. The reason I didn't is just simply because I know they're going to be subject to a lot of revisions, so there's not a lot of meaningful conclusions to be drawn at this point. That's pretty much all I've got. Any questions?
So how are we situated based on the fact that, we talked in our last meeting, and I think the one before that, about the potential of having to sort of watch our spending because of the Cook County money not coming in when it normally does? Are we still feeling very comfortable about that?
I haven't looked at it in any more depth since the last meeting, but nothing has really significantly changed. I think we want to be sure to defer any major one-off expenditures until after we know we have tax revenue coming again. I think we're fine with our just regular operating expenses from now until the November, December timeframe. As we get closer to that, and kind of once we get through the camp season of the summer, this is our high expense time period. So getting through the bills of July and August and September, it'll be easier to kind of take a read by then to see how are we doing for October, November, and December. So stay tuned, more to come.
Hey, Jerry, Brian here. So we're going to pass a tentative budget tonight, and there's some stuff in there like drinking fountains, concrete, things of that nature. We're going to hold off on all of that. Those would be larger expenses. We're going to hold off on that. I shouldn't start any of that in the fall.
It would be preferable, I think, and wise to defer that to the spring if possible.
Okay, because I may be able to order stuff that's going to be a 3-month delivery or supply chain delay. So that would be okay.
As long as we didn't have to pay for it, yeah.
Yeah. All right. I'll keep you posted before we do anything.
Yeah, you and I work pretty close together on those things.
Thanks.
Anything further? All right. Natalie, can we move on to your report?
Sure. All right, the Juneteenth parade. On June 18th, Ridgeville Park District participated in the Juneteenth parade organized by Kimon Hendricks for the city of Evanston. Our campers spent the week leading up to the parade decorating a banner and making signs for us to carry. We had about 25 people show up, which was great, to decorate the park truck and walk with Ridgeville. Those people consisted of campers, camp families, and some of our staff members. We passed out RPD swag along the route. We played music, and folks walked, biked, and drove the route with us, which was really cool. Very, very cool event, and I look forward to doing it again next year. IAPD workshop on June 29th, I participated in an IAPD workshop about the LGBT plus community safety and inclusivity in our parks and programming. The workshop was led by a staff member from the Howard Brown Health Center. Super informative, lots of really cool suggestions. I attached a couple of pages from the PowerPoint presentation that Jory gave that I thought that really kind of stuck out to me. Some of the things that I thought stood out, or some ways that I think that we could be more inclusive, is just encouraging staff and board members to consider adding your personal pronouns to your email signatures and your public display names. Also encourage the board to review our non-discrimination policy, update language if necessary, and posting that in our display cases at the parks and around the building I think would be useful as well. We have a couple signs that community service group from ETHS made a couple years ago and gave to us that we laminated and have in the park, which are really cool. But I think it would be nice to put our actual policy out publicly for folks to see. The presentation also started with a land acknowledgement. This is not the first time. A lot of the workshops that I go to at the IAPD conference also begin with a land acknowledgement. I attached theirs as well to my report so you can take a peek at it. I think particularly as a park district that takes such pride in our parks and our space, that could be a really important thing to include for us as well. These are just suggestions. I'm not asking for a vote, but if these are things that are of interest to the commissioners, I can always put it on the agenda for future meetings. 4th of July races, Brian already talked about that. We had races at Cayman East for the 4th of July Association, had a great turnout. Lots of families came, tossed water balloons, raced, ate pie. Really wonderful time. And then unfortunately, after our event was over, we learned that the rest of the 4th of July Association's events were canceled due to the tragic shooting in Highland Park. This is not the first time that it's come up, obviously, but just another reminder to me that I feel pretty strongly that our staff at Ridgeville needs some kind of active shooter training. Brian and I talked about that. So we're doing some research individually to see what kind of training the District 65 staff undergoes, so that it can be aligned with what the kids are already familiar with that are coming to our park district. But if any of you have any suggestions on that, I would welcome those. I think that that's an important thing for us to do as staff. Summer camp, we are halfway through the second session. I cannot believe it. Summer is flying by. Everything's great. We've had some really great guests for the campers, including the Ecology Center that's come out twice. They came out today. Total Team Magic, Brian mentioned earlier. Terrence the Magician was absolutely fantastic, and I hope he comes back every year. He did a really great job. Kids loved it. JC Herman has been visiting us once a week to do arts and crafts, and Cynthia McFadden has been joining us to do dance workshops with the kids, which they seem to really enjoy as well. Whole summer staff is doing a great job. We're going to end the summer with a pizza party on July 29th. And I attached a couple notes from parents that I thought you might like. Everybody seems to be having a great summer. Partner camps start in, I wrote July, I meant August. We have sold out sessions of the Imaginary Game running at Ridgeville Park for 3 weeks. We have various week-long camps running at Cayman East Park. Art Encounter and Dime have unfortunately canceled their camps due to low registration, but we still have space available in the Sticky Fingers Cooking Camp and Playwell Technologies Lego Camp. the Sticky Fingers Cooking Camp, I need 2 more to run it. So if you know any kids out there that want to learn to cook, please send them to me. They can register online or they can contact me directly. Studio 908, we're running a small session of adult classes, including West African dance, Feldenkrais, walking club, and yoga. Not too late to join. Please tell anybody who might be interested to contact me for a prorated fee. Youth Grow Team is doing a beautiful job once again on the parks this summer. They've planted produce at Elks Park Community Garden for the food pantry and have been hard at work planting, laying wood chips, cleaning up weeds at Ridgeville Park. Thank you so much to Laura Downey, who stepped in this summer to lead the group while Catherine works remotely. She's doing a terrific job. Elks Park Community Garden. We had 3 plots returned to us from renters who couldn't commit to growing this summer. We were able to turn those 3 plots into 6 and offer them to folks on our wait list. The wait list is now down to 10. I also had banners made for both the fences at the Elks Park Community Garden and the Ridgeville Park Garden for Garden to Table with our website address, so people know how to get information about our gardening opportunities. Concerts on the Ridge. I'm thrilled to say that they have been wildly successful. We had School of Rock kick us off on June 29th. We probably had 300 people at that concert. It was packed. Yuta and the High Dukes played the next week. Also had a great turnout. Last night we had Dance in the Parks and probably had another 300 people there. It was really, really packed, which was awesome. It was so nice to see all those people come out. I said in here we had lost a booking for August 10th. I have found a replacement booking, so we're all set there. And thank you to Cocina Azteca, Firehouse Grill, and Cat's Cookies for feeding the audiences. I think they're all doing pretty well, and I'm happy to have them there. Reba Park Block Party is going well. The planning is going well. It looks like we're going to have 8 demo classes on the half court throughout the event. A fire truck. Thank you, Mick. Food trucks. The same concert vendors that we have are going to come to this event as well. Activities that will be led by the Ready Committee, J.C. Herman, the Nolan family, and partner activities with the Imaginary Game and Evanston Public Library. If you have suggestions or recommendations on other local organizations or businesses I should reach out to, let me know. All are welcome. I anticipate more folks being there than what I have listed. I'm still working out the details in the midst of all the other craziness because someone decided to add another summer event to their schedule.
And what's the date of that?
August 20th. It's a Saturday, August 20th from 11 to 3.
Okay.
And I would love if the board could be there. If you can come, I'll harass you more about that later, but. And that's it.
All right. Anybody have questions or comments for Natalie?
Yes.
I just oh, sorry, Mick, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead, Brian. Go ahead.
We have a drinking fountain that we need to be replacing at Reba. I would love to get it done before the event, but I don't think we should because of the money situation that Jerry and I had just talked about. So the park will be looking pretty nice, except we'll have an old drinking fountain that doesn't work in the park.
It's okay.
To be repaired when cash flow is better.
What would be the cost on repairing it?
We have to buy it. Actually, we probably have one that would work there, but probably $4,000 to $5,000.
Okay.
What if you got some coolers and little bottles of water as a tide you over through this event kind of thing?
We'll bring some coolers for sure.
Yeah.
I think we should have our treasurer set up a little water stand and lemonade stand there to dispense
Listen,
fresh
it's a
drinks.
taste of Ridgeville. Come get a taste of Jerry. Get some water and meet our treasurer.
All right. Anything else?
Yeah. Concerts on the Ridge are awesome. Good work, Natalie. Having a lot of fun at those. in previous summers, I kind of always noticed it was people walking. And now I'm noticing the streets are filling up with cars. People are starting to drive in for these, which is pretty cool to see. And then I just had a comment on, you talked about the active shooter. And I think two good places to start if you were looking for training on that would be ETHS. I know they've done extensive training with their staff and students, especially after the incident they had last year. And then secondly, the Evanston Police Department definitely has resources that would be able to help you out. They have quite a few officers who have done extensive training on them. They've trained us, and I would assume they would do, help out Ridgeville as well. So those would be the two places I would start.
That's great, Mick. That's great. Thank you.
I can see if I can ask around and see if I can find exactly who at the police department is kind of leads that stuff up. I'll see if I can. I've got some friends on the police department and I can ask them.
That would be super helpful. Thank you.
All right, anything further?
I would think you could ask our beat cop too.
Yeah, I that's on my list for sure. I had reached out to District 65 first because I want to make sure the training we need any kind of training, but I want to make sure the training we do is aligned with what the kids are already familiar with at school, specifically the elementary age kids. So, but yeah, that's a great idea. I think I can certainly reach out to our beat.
I just think any interaction that we can have with the beat cop is always good.
Yeah, for sure. Cool. Thank you.
All right, anything further for Natalie? All right, we're going to move on to our ready report. Ms. Herman.
Hey there.
Hi.
I do not have an official report for you all this month. We have not met since the last board meeting. But I did want to take a minute to welcome Diana Anton. Thank you so much for being willing to be on the board. We're very excited to have you. I also wanted to thank the board for approving Aisha Robinson signing the contract for the equity committee. We are really, really excited about this and looking to start getting some work done. So thank you for doing that. I wanted to throw in there too that the Juneteenth parade was so much fun. I am not a parade goer, but apparently I really like being in parades. It was really so much fun. I was handing out swag and it was a blast. On that note, from my understanding, there has been a line item put together for the sponsorship of the Juneteenth parade for next year. I'm not making an official recommendation from the committee, but I would like the board to consider sponsoring the Evanston Pride Parade next year too. That would put Ridgeville in the 4th of July parade, the Juneteenth parade, and the Pride Parade, which I think this is my personal opinion, not so much from the committee because we haven't talked about it, but I think that would be an important thing for Ridgeville to do. And the last thing that I want to throw out there is Josh Coatliers, who's doing who's the arts camp director. I would like to say that I think that he is doing a better job than I ever did. He knows those kids so well. He knows, right? I mean, he went to camp with a lot of the CITs and some of the counselors there. He is really doing an amazing job. It's been really nice to be there once a week and see how well camp is running with someone. I don't know if you as board members know this, but he has been at Ridgeville Camp since he was 3-4 years old. And the only summers he hasn't been there are the 2 summers during COVID when it was closed and last year when numbers were really small. So he literally has been raised for this job. And I just wanted to say, I think he's doing really, really well.
Great. Thank you, JC. Any commissioners have any questions or comments?
Thanks for bringing up that Pride Parade idea. I think that's great. And I agree with you. I think we should be a part of all those.
JC, do you know if there'd be any budgetary concerns for those parades if we're looking at next year's budget?
I don't know. I'm not familiar with how the Pride Parade works. Again, I'm not a parade goer. I'm not a big fan of crowds of people. I don't know if maybe Natalie has a.
Yeah. Oh, JC, I think you froze. I will do some research. I think it's a similar sponsorship situation as with the Juneteenth.
I'm not able to answer that question. It just, Natalie, it came up. Oh, sorry, Natalie, you froze for a second. Now you're back.
Okay, sorry. I think it's a similar situation as the Juneteenth parade. I think there's a sponsorship level. So I'll do some research into that so I can talk to Brian about it. If that's something the board is interested in, which I agree, I'd love to do that too. Then we can make sure that that's budgeted for.
Anything further for the Ready Committee? All right, thank you, JC.
Thank you.
Moving on, we are into section 9, old business. We've already taken care of the equity consultant contract. So we'll move on to 9B, presentation of the tentative budget with Brian.
Okay, the tentative budget, I hope you all got a copy of it. I know we had some problems from a technology standpoint, and I also sent a tentative budget highlights page for you, which I will go through in a second. But I want to take you to Exhibit A first, and then we'll come back to the highlights. Exhibit A is handwritten because it's certainly going to change quickly. But as of now, the 2022-2023 budget as proposed will total the tax levy, if passed as is, would be $737,450, which is a 5.3% increase from last year of $700,500. Now, the only reason it is like that is because inflation's so high, our expenses are going to go up and our wages are going to go up. So I'm going to start with that. Then you have the hard copy of the suggested tentative budget, which is certainly going to change. As you all know, Jerry and I will meet in August when his numbers, year-ending numbers, are more firm, and then we'll go through category, see where we can make changes, hopefully trim the budget a little bit, add where we need to add. Sorry, my phone's dinging. My grandson's in Cooperstown having a good game, so that's all I'm hearing about. I'm going to go through the highlights page for you real quick. This is kind of like going through the bills where there's a few unusuals. So from the corporate side of the tentative budget, in CA 13, I added tools for the maintenance crew. This includes mostly drills and saws in the amount of approximately $2,000. In CA 51, I added 2 AEDs to replace our original AEDs. Now, you may remember about a year and a half ago, we got 2 new AEDs. They were in new locations. These are the 2 original that were in 908 Seward and David Wood Fieldhouse. They no longer will be making batteries for those. So we have to replace them in the near future. That cost is about $2,500. Then we'll have 4 total AEDs, 1 in Cayman East, 1 in the garage, maintenance garage, 1 in 908 Seward, and 1 in the garage art studio. CA 51 also has asbestos removal. That consists of removing the tile that is under the stairway carpet at approximately $10,000. It will come in under that, but then we have to lay carpet over that, and whatever else might come up, hopefully it doesn't, in that budget item. On the recreation side of the tentative budget, R12, fuel for vehicles, has increased to an estimated $12,000 instead of 10. We hope this can be adjusted downward as the year goes on. We also put in the budget a Kubota sidewalk and ice brush attachment to the Kubota vehicle, which we haven't received yet, but we'll receive probably sometime in the fall. And then R14, seminars for maintenance crews, which Marcos Cruz, when he became foreman, took the lead and went ahead and already started some. That's $1,500. RA17, drinking fountains at Brummel Lighter and Reba Park with total about $10,000. And then, of course, you already know about CA 600 nature-based play area has been deferred from the 2021 to 2022 budget. And then again, I'll repeat, Exhibit A has a 5.3% increase. The levy at Exhibit A is increased from $700,500 to $737,450. The maximum increase you can have, and Jerry can pop in here, is 5%, but we always go slightly over because certain things happen on Jerry's end, and then we get our 5%. This will be the largest increase, if we approve it, that I've had at Ridgeville, because the economy has been in different situations and CPI has been much lower, 2 and 3%. It's going to be at 7 or 8% this year. So therefore, we can raise our budget 5% or CPI, whichever's lower. So this year will be the first year the 5% is lower than CPI. So that's my budget highlights. If anybody has any questions, go ahead and shoot. I know one other thing, we're going to talk about Gaga before the end of the budget, and that's about $2,500 if we decide to go ahead and do it. And that would be, we would add that or find a spot to put it in August when Jerry and I meet, if in fact it's something you want to go ahead with.
I have a quick question for you. The asbestos removal in CA 51, you said is under the stairs. Didn't we replace that carpet just this?
No, we replaced the second floor carpet.
Okay.
We started to replace the stairs and we found the asbestos tile and had.
Okay. All right. That's I remember there was something with it, but I couldn't remember exactly what it was.
Yeah. But that's a good question.
Further questions or comments?
I think one other item that would be fair to comment on as a highlight is under CA1 part-time wages. There is a significant bump in the treasurer's salary there, bringing it up to the same level as the annual audit. If you recall, last year, the auditors did a big jump up, and so we're tracking that with the treasurer's salary here as well. So I think it's only fair to highlight that, because that is a change from past years as far as the magnitude of it. In general, Brian made reference to the 5%. It's the state law PTEL, and this is particularly for the benefit of Commissioner Anton, since she's getting up to speed with us today. State law allows us to increase our budget by the maximum of, the lesser of 5% or CPI. And what Brian was referring to is we've gone a many number of years where the rate of inflation has been significantly less than 5%. This year, the rate of inflation, as published in the state report that we go by, was above 7%. So the state law, the property tax extension limit law, will restrict us to a 5% increase in the tax levy. It's not as simple as just saying it's 5%, because it's actually a more complicated formula that takes into account the assessed value of properties and a bunch of calculations. But 5% is a simple way of getting us into the ballpark. We deliberately in the process overshoot what our number is, and what happens then when the county does the tax extension, they will cut our request back to be compliant with what the results of that calculation are. So we do our best to not leave any money on the table and get the most we're entitled to, rather than err on the side of undershooting the number and forever being out that opportunity to bring in the revenue on the taxes. So that's the game that's being played there. We, in August, in the budget process where we're at, we started with drafts back in April and May, and others have heard me say it before. It's kind of a process where in the beginning, it's very pie in the sky, think of everything you want, get it in the budget. As we kind of pour the concrete, it starts to set. And the closer we get to the September deadline for passing the appropriations ordinance, the firmer the numbers get and the less easy it is to change things. So we're kind of at the first major milestone where you're going to approve a tentative budget. That doesn't mean these numbers are fixed at this point. We can still adjust them next month, but next month is probably your last opportunity to make changes to the numbers, because at the September meeting, it's got to be voted on. Brian and I typically meet late in August to do basically a review where we take the actual expenditure. It's a reasonableness review. We take the actual expenditures of the just ended fiscal year and compare them to the budgeted figures for the new year to identify significant differences and understand whether they're reasonable or not. For normal ongoing expenses, like we spent, X amount of dollars on utilities, we would expect that to be roughly the same amount plus perhaps a little rate of inflation. But if we have a particular category that sees a major change, we want to double check and make sure there's a reasonable explanation for why we're making a big change in that particular category. So that's that final reasonableness review. The last thing we do in that August meeting that we have is we get the Exhibit A into balance. And basically what we're trying to do there is we've said, here's how we plan to spend the money. Now here's how we're going to identify the revenue resources that are going to fund that expenditure level. And that's what Exhibit A is all about. A lot of this is dictated to us by state law and county procedures, but that's kind of what is the task ahead of us. I just kind of give that as a little background for understanding for everyone and a reminder.
Thank
I
you.
have one additional question I just thought of. And this can go to either the treasurer or the parks director. We will be having an overlap in the park director role next year. Is my understanding, because we're going to hire someone, Brian will work with that person for a brief period of time. We have a budget item in here. Does that does not reflect, I don't believe, any overlap. And secondly, have we done any exploration as to what type of salaries we would be looking at for a park director? Not to say that we're underpaying or overpaying Brian one way or the other, probably more underpaying than overpaying. But is that something that we have looked into? So as we move into the budgeting for the next year, that could affect that number potentially.
Answer to both of those questions are very good questions. I called Jerry Monday or Tuesday and said, Jerry, we forgot to estimate some extra salary in CA3 for whoever the new director is. So that's on our August agenda to make that change. Also, the IAPD will help you with that salary range. The only thing I can tell you is when there's smaller park districts that are publicized, it's based on kind of their overall budget. And therefore, we're small. I've seen 60, 70, 75,000 as a starting wage in different small park districts publicized by IAPD. That's not to say that's what ours will be. It's just, that's
Right, I just kind of wanted to raise that, so we were considering that. I mean, I don't know that we want to go in rock bottom and say, this is what, I mean, we would like to try to attract a good candidate, and going in with the lowest price is not necessarily going to do that. So I just wanted to make sure those were on your radar as we move forward in this, because I didn't see anything specifically speaking to that. And just wanted to make sure that we were thinking about that.
Brian, have you put in your plan the IAPD fee for assisting in the search process? Is that in the budget?
It's in the budget.
Yeah, I saw that one in the budget. That's what reminded me of it.
Okay, good. I would ask that the commissioners give a little direction as to how much overlap they would like to see. From some of the discussions at last month's meeting, I was a little concerned that perhaps we're not allowing enough time and enough overlap. I am concerned. We've got a lot of institutional experience and knowledge in Brian, and to just say, oh, there's a week or two of overlap with him, I don't know is enough to bring a new director up to speed. So I am kind of a fan of saying a longer time period, but it sounded like the discussion was going for a much shorter time period last time. If we could have some maybe discussion about that and some clear direction as to what to do, and really get a lot more clarity about what the timeline for the process is going to be. I would just kind of highlight how difficult the city has found it to be to replace the city manager and some of the other organizations around town that have been looking for replacement. I had lunch with somebody on the YW board. They've just lost Karen Singer as their executive director because she's retiring. And the process is surprising them at what a long and difficult process it is. So my bottom line is I'm just concerned that we not underestimate what this line item is and plan accordingly and get going on it sooner rather than later. That's my 2 cents worth.
It's a great point. Matt Rogers also great points you brought up. Commissioners have a sense of how much they'd like that overlap to be?
I would think 2 to 3 months. I don't know if that's a lot. I know it's a small organization, but I mean, I've seen overlap in bigger organizations for almost a year. But what do you think of 2
I
or
think
3
it would.
months? Is that long?
Sorry, Dana, were you finished?
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry. I thought I might have jumped on you. I guess I'd like to default to Brian, see what he thinks. And I also think maybe there's room for budgeting more than we need. I think a lot of it's going to depend on who we hire and what kind of experience they have. But I think we need to look at Brian and see what he thinks a reasonable amount.
You keep freezing. Did you finish?
I think you did finish, Brian. So yeah, what's your sense?
I would say at least 2 board meetings, which would be parts of 2 months. I'm leaving May 31st, so if he or she was here, the April and May board meeting, and then through the time I was here, I think that through May 31st, I think that would be a good give that person a good sense of their duties and what's going on. I will tell you this: when I started, nothing. Nothing.
Well, Ridgefield was just established back then.
That doesn't make it right.
Yeah, they threw the keys at me and said, "Go to work."
Well, I have to speak to that.
Yeah,
we had some really quirky director issues before we happened before we happily found Brian. So I'm just defending that. Brian, there was no one there.
Right?
Nobody
You wouldn't have
home.
wanted the overlap. I think the other thing that's important to recognize is we'll be in a season, when he's leaving in this overlap period, we'll be in a season of elections and possibly new commissioners. There's a lot of other stuff happening at the same time. And so,
Busiest time of the year.
yeah, so, coming into the camp season. So talk about trial by fire for somebody to come in the middle of that with too little overlap.
So Brian, from your recommendation, I'm hearing a minimum of 5 weeks. Diane, I hear your idea of 2 to 4 months. I don't know if our budget can support that.
2 to 3 months.
3 months. So make.
If the new director was here for the April and May board meeting, it would probably be more like 8 weeks, closer to 2 months. Let's say they came in for the April 10th board meeting, whatever that date is. Then we go to the May 12th board meeting, and then another 3 weeks with me till May 31st. That's about 8 weeks.
I think we also have to be cognizant of when we would be interviewing, because if we're talking going back to April, we have to realize that holidays are happening through January. So that gives us from January to April to do any hiring. So just kind of throwing that into the mix as well, that we really can't start too much before the first of the year.
We need to post and do the make announcements and things of that nature, hire IAPD and
Right.
get them working, because they're not going to have it done in a week.
Yeah.
No.
We'll make it-
Yeah, I'd love to get some direction from IAPD as soon as possible.
Okay, we'll have that for next month.
Great. Nick?
I just wanted to make a comment that I don't think, obviously we need to work within our budget, but I don't think this is something that we should skimp on or worry about spending too much. I think this is a big investment in the future of Ridgeville, and we are losing an immense amount of experience and knowledge with Brian's retirement. So any amount, we need to afford the new director the maximum amount of time we can with Brian, so that they can learn and soak up as much as they can before he leaves. And I really think that that's extremely important. So Matt, I agree with you. I think we should get this process rolling as soon as we can, because the sooner we can pick them and hire them and get them time with Brian before he leaves, with all the other things like voting and elections and, the summer starting up and during that time, it's going to be important for the future of Ridgeville to give them as much time with Brian as possible.
I think what started this conversation was Jerry asking for some direction regarding how much we should budget for that overlap. I think what I heard from Brian is a minimum of 8 weeks. Are people comfortable with that, with 8 weeks?
I think we should do a 2-month overlap, or plan on that at least. I mean, if it ends up being 6 weeks because of timing or something like that, we can still hit those 2 board meetings potentially. But so that we hit it fairly close to that. I mean, obviously, if we hire somebody who has a job, they're going to have to give notice to their current employer and that sort of stuff. So I think we hit it as close to the 8-week window as we can. But realize there might be a little play. Someone might be able to come in 10 weeks. Someone might be able to come in at 6 weeks, just based on their situation.
I'm comfortable with that. I see a nod from Mick. Diana?
Yes.
Okay. And Debbie? Thumbs up. All right. So Jerry and Brian, could we at this point schedule for a 2-month overlap? And I agree with Matt. We'll have to play it by ear when we get into the sausage making.
Right. Yeah, so we get into that August time frame. We'll have to slice the budget up a little bit and work in at least 2 months.
Anything further on the budget? Brian and Jerry, do you need anything from the board regarding this tentative budget at this meeting?
Need you to pass it.
So I would move to pass a tentative budget as listed in the packet. Looking for the total. Includes a total appropriation of $1,070,250. Is there a second?
I second it.
I would just make a comment that also this doesn't have to be in the motion, but obviously taking into account the discussion that we just had on, you know, how to play with the numbers to get us that 2-month overlap in the park director's timeframe. So if it needs to go a little over, I'm fine with that.
Noted.
I think tonight is just pass what's in front of you. The other discussion we can work out in the upcoming versions. You know, this isn't
So this
this
isn't
isn't locked in. It's just a step in the process we have to do.
So I'm still able to write my name in the corner of the concrete.
Yeah.
all right, there's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Ms. Larson, would you mind calling the vote?
Anton,
Yes.
Ron,
Yes.
Yes.
McMorro, Rogers,
Yes.
and Mitchell.
Yes. All right, motion carries. Thank you. Moving on. We're into new business and I have Commissioner Braun and Brian to discuss the Gaga Court.
Sure.
Start?
We had a discussion months ago. We didn't move on it. We kind of let it sit. I gave you a lot of information on Gaga Court. It's a lot, but I'll give you a quick rundown. Gaga as a game is a variant of dodgeball played in a Gaga pit. The pit is traditionally or standard to be 30 inches high in an octagon or a hexagon design. The official size is 26 by 26. You can make them smaller, you can make them bigger. The game is extremely popular with elementary school kids all the way through junior high. It can be the ideal ground underneath the Gaga pit would be concrete or asphalt, but it can be played on the ground. I went by Kingsley School and they have one out at the corner of McCormick and Green Bay. It's wooden. Walked up to it. I was really concerned about what was the base underneath it, and it was dirt. They worn the grass out. They love it. The kids were playing when I was there. So the only problem with dirt is when it rains, then you have mud and you're not going to play for several days. So especially if it's like recess time and it's raining or had rained, you're not going to play. So anyways, you can purchase them as inflatables or you can purchase them as a kit that you make the permanent structure. So they can be made out of wood, heavy plastic, or even metal. The Gaga pit's done right, $1,500 to $2,000 range. The basic rules of the game, the players hit the ball with their hands. And if they hit another player from the knee or below, that player's out. It's kind of like dodgeball, except not as mean. They can use the boards to hit the ball off of and then a player. Anyways, the kids love it. I was not familiar with it until about 2 years, not 2 years ago, about 6 or 8 months ago when we first discussed it. So then the other issue would be, let's say we want to do it. The other issue would be where. what's the base of it going to be? Because that's going to add more expense. Portable or permanent. You're going to take green space away, probably up to 25 by 25 feet. It's another thing that you have to consider with expanding gardens and Gaga about green space. But I will tell you, it's extremely popular and the kids love it. And if we could find the right spot, it would be a good permanent addition, in my opinion.
Debbie, you're listed as also spearheading it. Do you have anything to add?
I wanted to make sure that it was brought up again because it was talked about, like Brian said, several months ago and then just dropped. As far as I'm concerned, I think we should do it. I have worked at summer camps, sleepaway camps that have had it, and it is unbelievably popular. You know, I mean, not every kid's going to play basketball or whatever, and I think it gives another option for kids to come play at the park.
And so there's 7, how much did you say, Brian? For
1,500 to 2,000 without concrete or asphalt.
For just one?
For just one, yeah. We don't have a parking lot big enough. Sometimes you have big parking lot, and you put the Gaga pit right on top of the asphalt. We don't have that luxury. We have some concrete pads, but they're used for other shows and things of that nature. So those are both issues. You know, what you could do is go to a temporary for a year, put it in next year's budget. When I say temporary, inflatables. Haven't seen one in use, but that's an option also. And they're more like $1,000.
Nick?
So they have them, just like Debbie mentioned. I think a lot of the Boy Scout camps, I've been to Camp Echo. They have a few at Camp Echo, which is the McGaw YMCA sleepaway camp in Michigan, through the Evanston YMCA. Kids love it up there. It is very popular. I don't know how much of a supporter of a temporary one I would be. I think if we're going to do this, we'd be better off keeping the money in the budget and doing it right at some point. Camp Echo has them on the ground, on the dirt. My thought would be that this, being that it's made out of wood, this might be something that we could tie into the nature-based play area and have it kind of be a part of that. I know we had planned for that or thought of doing that at Cayman West in that shaded area, in that part of the park. I think that would be a good spot for the Gaga pit as well, possibly. The other spot I'm thinking would be maybe that small tot lot just behind, between Cayman East and Ridgeville, kind of the one that surrounded in the alleys there behind the maintenance sheds, right? That really doesn't get much use for anything, but I don't know what a good spot that would be for ball playing for kids. Just some thoughts that I'm throwing out as I'm thinking about this.
Anybody else?
Yeah, at first I thought maybe a temporary one, but I agree with Mick. I think if you're going to do it, just pick a place and put a permanent one in. Because, I mean, $1,000, it could be done in 1 year. You know, it could be broken or whatever. So I think a permanent place.
So I agree with that sentiment. I'm hearing from Diana, Debbie, and Nick. You're interested in moving forward. Matt Rogers, do you have an opinion?
No, I mean, I'm in favor of it. I would again reiterate the going with a more permanent one. I've actually witnessed this game. I've never played it. I'm a little big to play it. It's not fair because half of my body is the height of a child. But I think that in the way that I've seen the game played, I don't know how well it would play on an inflatable. because the inflatable doesn't create the hard surface that you need to bounce off of. And so I think it will impact the quality of the game for the kids. So I would rather come up with somehow the extra $500 or so to make something more permanent. And again, I think we should look at, when we're talking about locations, we just sort of scouted some locations, looking for garden plot locations, and a lot of them were decided, oh, this is too shady, or this is, not quite the right. So I think we should revisit those places as a potential site for a Gaga pit.
So I'm hearing close to consensus. Everybody is interested. Everybody's interested in a permanent structure, not a temporary structure. Location to be decided. I think the one question then would be, would we try to get that into this year's budget or push it to next year? And if we decide in this year budget, we're not going to really get it until spring.
I mean, that's the thing. I mean, we can vote on it now, but by the time we actually do anything to it, it will be, September, and then you get a month or two most out of it. So why not wait till spring and do it right and get the whole season?
What we do need to decide is to whether we put it in this year's budget.
I have a quick question for Brian. Hey, Brian, and this obviously has to do with the budget. I want to know what the one you said it was at Kingsley School. What's that one made out of, Brian?
Well, it's made of wood.
It is?
It's made of wood.
So, because the ones at Echo and that I remember are essentially like 2x8s or treated 2x8s or 2x10s stacked on top of each other, right? And
Right.
then are they bolted together at the corners?
There's brackets, so they run on an angle and make your hexagon or your octagon. And
Okay.
there's brackets that the wood feeds into, which.
Okay, got it. So those essentially those brackets you would have to buy especially for a Gaga pit.
Yeah, I
Okay.
don't know how that works, but
Right.
that's the key to the pit is the bracket.
Okay, because in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, I know lumber's expensive right now, but even still, 2x8s or 2x10s, you're only looking at maybe a few $100s for the lumber and the bolts. So I was just trying to compute where we're coming at.
Mickey kind of froze up there at the end.
Sorry, yeah, I was just saying I was trying to compute as to where we're at $1,500 to $2,000 if it's essentially some 2x4s and hardware.
Yeah, it'd be 2x8s or 2x10s spaced out correctly with the brackets.
Okay.
So
I just did a quick search online for the brackets themselves. It looks like you can get a set of 8 for $400. So, that's roughly where you're going to end up with your expenses.
Yeah, sure. So, and the lumber would be about the same. So you're probably looking at about 1,000 to 1,500 for the parts. So his budget or his guess was right on.
Yeah.
Now here's the next question. Obviously, if it's not concrete or poured in, I'm assuming that it could be built and then dismantled and then put in somewhere else. So if we found a better spot for it, we could do that.
Or poured concrete a year later.
Right. It also might be, I don't know how much use it's going to get over winter. This might be something that it might be worth disassembling to save even if it is treated lumber, right? You and I know both that only has so much life in itself. Maybe the guys assemble it and then dismantle it in the winter and store it, in the garage to save our investment there.
What about a
and
wood
I think
base?
Did you say wood chip?
I said, what about a wood base? If you talk about making it dismantleable, be able to be dismantled and stored.
That would heave fairly easy, and then you have a tripping hazard. They suggest concrete, asphalt, number one, or then go to crushed limestone in the area. but District 65 chose to do neither, and the kids were having a blast on dirt. There was grass
Just
there.
put it on dirt. That's what,
There's also 2 pits at Washington School, kind of right near their playground near Robert Crown, that I thought were made of plastic.
Is it off Main Street or the pits? They,
You know where their playground is? It's like kind of abuts Robert Crown. It's
I
on
see the
the,
playground on Main Street. As I head towards Robert Crown, there's a big playground there.
yeah,
haven't seen
it's
it.
in there.
It's in there.
Yeah, and I think it's on concrete, and I thought it was plastic.
I could
Um,
check that out too. But why don't come back next month, and then the end of August, we see if we can, come back next month and say, here's what the number is for sure. And then in late August, see if we can squeeze it in.
That sounds good to me. Make it a maybe for this upcoming budget.
Yeah. And then who knows what the supply chain problem is with the brackets, but the wood is down the street. So we know we can get that.
Hey, what about, we've probably thrown them all away, but we've lost all of these ice skating rink liners and everything. I don't know if something like that could be repurposed
Yeah.
into a base somehow. I mean, just throwing that out there as a possibility.
Yeah.
I would be very pro not making a permanent base so that we could move this in the future if we wanted to. Don't pour a huge concrete slab or something like that. So if we decide we want to move it around to different parks at different times or whatever we want to do, we aren't bound by, oh, well, we've invested in a concrete slab here.
Right. You also, if you have the time, just drive by Kingsley, take a peek. Drive by Washington School, take a peek. Kingsley has a camp going on, and there's kids playing it all the time. Again, McCormick and Green Bay, right by their basketball court, more or less, between their playground and basketball court.
All right, anything further on Gaga? All right, we are moving along to the call of the commissioners. And Diana, I guess we'll do this in alphabetical order as well. So Diana, you have anything to say?
Oh, no. It's been an interesting meeting, and no, I have nothing to add.
Right. Debbie?
No, nothing.
Mick?
yeah. Since our last meeting, we kind of briefly mentioned in Natalie's report, our nearby community, Highland Park, had a very traumatic and terrible event, the shooting on the 4th of July. And I just wanted to say on behalf of Ridgeville and the Ridgeville community that we're thinking of them, and we're with them in this tough time.
Thank you. Matt Rogers?
2 quick things. Number one, I've been giving some thought to this. We always go in alphabetical order, and Debbie and I were talking about this before because she was always first. She isn't anymore. But it's typically like city council starts, they have a rotating starting point. So somebody isn't always the first vote. And so I think we should look into maybe doing something like that, where one week we start with, different, each month we start with a different member. So it kind of rotates through as to who's casting that first vote.
I like that idea.
So that would be something. At the last meeting, I mentioned something about, the city of Evanston looking at what they're doing with their park districts, with their parks, and wanting to potentially keep them open 24/7. And how would that play? I happened to run into the chief of police last night, and sort of mentioned to him, I'd like to talk to him about, if that did move forward, what would the Evanston police, how would they handle complaints at our parks if we had a different set of rules? He said he didn't see a problem with that, but we're going to have just another little informal discussion about that. And hopefully then, if they do move forward with the city of Evanston changing their rules, we will at least have an idea as to how we can move forward. That's it for me. Other than just to say, welcome to Commissioner Anton for joining us.
Thank
And look forward to working with you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Briefly, my family really enjoys the 4th of July games, and I want to thank Brian, who has spearheaded that every 4th of July for the last 30 years. You know, taking time away from being with his kids and grandkids. I appreciate it. I know the community does. So you'll be missed, but the traditional go on, and you're
I
welcome
appreciate
anytime.
that. And just so the board knows, Commissioner Mitchell volunteered to take over the megaphone next year. So we'll see how that works.
I did. Big boots to fill. But unless there's any other interest, I am willing to MC the 4th of July games. All right, that's it for me. At this point, we are going to adjourn to executive session.
Citizen comments?
Thank you. Are there any citizen comments at this point? Seeing none. We're going to adjourn to executive session. Diana, do you have that link?
Matt,
Yes.
Matt, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Gabriella Martin did want to make a citizen comment.
Okay.
She had to leave, but in the chat she wrote she wanted to know what the next steps are going to be for the additional garden plots. Several locations were identified. What can Ridgeville do to create additional plots?
Okay. Thank you. Maybe you and I can talk about responding to her.
Sure. And if anybody wants to put that back on the agenda, just let me know.
Okay.
For next month.
Yeah, I feel like we talked about it at the last meeting, and haven't made any firm commitments besides the work that you updated today. And would you know if she was there for that, Natalie? Your update regarding?
I don't know if she heard my report.
I know she joined late because I saw her pop in, so I don't know exactly at what point she joined though, but I remember she was not here early on in the meeting. So she may not have been here for your report.
Okay.
Yeah. I can email her tomorrow as well.
Okay. I'll check in with you about that. So at this point, we are going to adjourn to executive session. Brian, would you join us?
Yes.
We need to make a motion.
We do. I just want to make sure that we're all clear about what we're going to do. So we're going to adjourn at the executive session. It's going to be just the 5 commissioners and Brian. We will do the annual review of Young Hauer and Natalie Salee. We will come back, perhaps make any motions that arise out of that executive session and then adjourn. Any questions?
I can't find the code.
I will forward that to you right now.
Recording in progress.
Charles, are you saying goodbye, or do you have anything to say? Okay, nothing from him. I move that we adjourn to executive session for the limited purpose of discussing the annual review of Young Hauer and Natalie Salee. Is there a second?
Second.
Julie, could we roll call the vote?
Yes.
Ron,
Yes.
Morale,
Yes.
Rogers,
Yes.
Mitchell.
Yes. All right, we'll see you then.
See you in executive.
I see all 5 commissioners. I'm gonna reconvene our meeting. We're coming out of executive session where we did the annual review of Young Hauer and Natalie Salee. Coming out of that executive session, are there any motions?
Rogers here. I move that the Board of Commissioners, in recognition of the fine work that she has done over the past 6 years that she has been at Ridgeville Park District, in her role as program director, that we authorize a 6% raise for Natalie Sally on her current base salary.
I'll second it, Braun.
Julie, could you call the vote?
Yes,
Braun,
Yes,
Morel. Morel, sorry, I didn't hear you. Rogers
Yes,
and Mitchell.
Yes. Motion carries. Mr. Rogers, do you have any other motions?
I move that the Board of Commissioners, in recognition of the fine work that Young Hauer has been doing for the past year that she's been employed as our accounts manager and office assistant, that we also grant a pay increase of 6% off of her base hourly rate for the next year.
I'll second it, Braun.
Julie, could we call that vote, please?
yes,
Braun,
Yes,
Morel,
Yes.
Rogers,
Yes,
Mitchell.
Yes. Motion carries. Anything further from anybody?
I'll make a motion to end this meeting.
Mitchell seconds. Do just a
Yep.
voice vote.
just a
All in
call.
favor?
yes.
Okay.
Thank you all so much.
Thanks.
All right.
Thank you.